let's begin for today's session. Today we are going to cover the concepts of secularism and communalism. Yes, in short, these two terms are opposite to each other, and while referring one term, we have to take help of other terms. Means when we are discussing secularism, there may be references to the communalism and this phenomenon. Yes, and while discussing communalism, we will have references to the secularism. So let's begin for today's session. Yes, what we are going to cover under secularism. The subtopics are the concept of secularism, then models of secularism, secularism in India, nature and practices of secularism in India. Yes, we are going to cover since British rule in India till present. Further, the Uniform Civil Code and issues related with Uniform Civil Code. Then challenges faced by secularism in India, because secularism is basic structure of Indian Constitution as per the Keshavananda Bharati judgment. So what are the challenges to it? We are going to see in detail. And the last one, the measures to make India truly secular country. Means how we can become a secular country, or how we can have a government policies and mission to make India truly secular. Because as of now, we are not truly secular, and there are multiple incidences of communalism. Yes, and throughout this PPT, we are going to see what are the examples of secularism as well as communalism. Now, the concept of secularism. What is secularism? If you read the preamble of the India, in this preamble you will find the term secularism, and as I mentioned earlier, secularism is basic structure of Indian constitutions. Now, what is secularism? Secularism in pure terms, it is a separation of state from religion. Means the religion should not interfere in the affairs of state, and at the same time state also will not interfere in the religious domain. This concept was originated in Europe, where they propounded a strict separation between state and church. Why this term was originated? Because during medieval Europe or in 14th, 15th centuries, there was a very great influence of church on state affairs, and the church has very dominant role in the society, or the church has very great impact or the large impact on the mindset of the people, and ultimately they influence the state policies. So this concept of secularism originated in the Europe, which propounded strict separation of the state affairs and church affairs, where what was their stand? Their stand was that religion is a strictly private matter and state has nothing to do with it. Means in short, state will not interfere in the religious aspect. At the same time, they expect that church should not intervene the affairs of the state. Means the legislature, the executive, and the overall government policy and the governance in the state. So this was the concept of secularism. But do we follow the same secularism model in India? No. Our secularism is different from that is followed in European countries. Yes. Now, before that, we are going to see what are the models of secularism. Means secularism is not similar in Europe or in other parts of the world. So we have two types of secularism, or the two models of secularism. The first one is the Indian model of secularism, that is positive secularism. What is positive secularism? We don't strictly separate religion and state. At the same time, we promote equal religion, that is Sarva Dharma Samabha. And the second one is equal protection to all religion. Means Indian Constitution, Indian government follows secularism, where they provide equal treatment to all religion, because we consider that religion has a great influence on the masses of the Indian masses or the societies of the India, and religion cannot be separated from the public sphere of Indians. So they provided for the positive secularism. Yes. And what is negative secularism? Opposite to that, negative secularism is followed in Western countries, particularly in the Europe, where there is a strict separation of religion and state. Means religion should not intervene in the state affairs, and state will not interfere in the religious aspect. And religion is the strictly private matter, and any religious symbol or any religious activity will not be allowed in the public sphere. This is negative secularism followed in Western countries or Europe, and it is also called as Western model of secularism. Yes, these are the two models. But in India, we follow positive secularism. Yes. Now, what is positive secularism in the India, or the secularism in the India? Indian government or the secularism we practice, we recognize that religion is the most important aspect of the life, and it cannot be separated from the public life. Means religion is the integral part of people, and it cannot be separated from public life, because most of the times in India, the religious activities or the worships are performed at public places, publicly, and large number of masses gather together for these religious activities. Consider the examples of Kumbh Mela. Yes, at peak hours, the Kumbh Mela gathers more than 1 crore people or the devotees at that Kumbh Mela place. So is the amount of or the number of people gathering together. So we cannot separate it from public life. Further, we provide equal protection to all religions. Article 25, 26, 27, 28 of Indian Constitution. Further, we allow the religious symbol in the public sphere. That is, we allow pagadi to the Sikh personnel working in police or in armed forces. We allow religious symbols. Further, another example is Sarva Dharma worship. If you have seen the news regarding when the Rafales were introduced in India, before introducing in the Air Force, they had Sarva Dharma worship of Rafales. If you want to see the picture, this one. This is a Rafale, and this is a DD News channel which shows that at Ambala Air Base, there was a Sarva Dharma Samabhav Puja, or the worship by gurus of various religions. If you see in the left hand side of the picture, you will find the religious or the leaders of various religions from Sikhism, Christianity, Hinduism. Yes, means we promote all religion worship of this Rafale aircraft or Rafale fighter. Yes, further, the government funds for all major religious activities or the religious event. Example, Kumbh Mela and Hajj Yatra, or any other religious event of other religions like Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism. Yes, and we provide funding to them, because the Indian government considers this as a parts of Indian culture and parts of composite culture of India. So as a cultural activity, we promote these religious events. Yes. Now, what is secularism in India? India is a one, and if we are Indians and we can belong to the religions like Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, Christianity, and these are major religions, and there are many other religions which are followed by tribal people, or few of them are atheists as well, who don't follow any particular religion. Means Indian secularism or Indian model of secularism considers them equal, those who follow religions as well as those who don't follow a religion. So means we are Hindu, we are Muslims, before that we are Indians. So this is the secularism model of India, and we have already seen this image of Rafale aircraft. Along with this example, whenever the ISRO people or the ISRO scientists launch any mission, before launching that model, they devote that particular model to the Tirupati god or the Balaji, Lord Balaji at Tirupati, because all scientists, irrespective of their religion, believe that before launching any mission, we have to worship or devote that model to the Lord Tirupati or Lord Balaji for its success. So, though they are scientists, they also believe in these traditions, or it is their personal belief as well. Further, the nature and practices of secularism in India. Means what is the nature as well as the practices of secularism. Yes, if we go back to some history, few decades back or few centuries back, Indian ideals of Indian secularism, they believe in peaceful coexistence. Means we all are Indians and we should live together. We may follow different religions, still we can live together. And secularism was basic tenet of Indian civilization, though this term was not used before 18th century or 19th century. Means it was an inherent part of Indian civilization. And if you see the history of India, we accommodated many people coming outside. So those who came from outside, over the period of time, they become a part of India and Indian civilization. Yes. Earlier, the Hinduism was not a religion; it was a Hindu way of life. And after the entry of Christianity, Islam in the India, the Hindu way of life become Hindu religion. Means before the introduction of Christianity or the Islam, it was an Hindu way of life. That is, those people living across the Sindhu river or Indus river. They were called as Hindu by other parts of the world, in other parts of the world, and after their entry, they are known as a Hindu religion. Yes, and this concept of secularism, though it was a basic tenet of our civilization, it come into prominence especially after the 1857, that is British era. In short, you can call communalism or secularism is modern concept. It was prevalent earlier also, but as a concept, it was evolved in modern India. Yes, or in modern times, particularly after the British advent in the India. Actually, the secularism and communalism are outcomes of British policy in India, and we are going to see what was their policy, how they divided India. Yes. Before that, what is Uniform Civil Code? Uniform Civil Code means there should be uniform civil laws for all Indians, irrespective of religions. Yes, because as of now we have common criminal law or uniform criminal law for all Indians, but we have different personal laws or civil laws for different communities. Means Muslims have different personal laws, means they have different laws or tradition regarding marriage, divorce, alimony, child custody, inheritance, or any other civil matter. And this varies from religion to religions. Means Muslim will have different method of marriage, different method of divorce. The Christians will be have different. The Hindus will have different traditions. But as per the Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, it calls for uniform civil code, and it tells that Indian government should take efforts to bring uniform civil code for all Indians so as to promote equality among all Indians, so that the unity and integrity can be remain there and can be protected over the long period of time. So this was uniform civil code. Means as of now, if we consider a small example of talaq or the divorce, it is a different in Hinduism, it is different in Muslim. Particularly the triple talaq was in news, and recently government banned on triple talaq because the government or the overall uniform civil code is not against the divorce method of the Muslims, but they are against the instant divorce. Yes, according to the law, there should be a separation of at least 6 months among the couple. They should live away from each other for 6 months, and then they can take a divorce by legal procedures. But in Islam, they follow instant divorce called triple talaq. So it was an injustice to the Muslim females or Muslim women. So the Uniform Civil Code was in news, but practically speaking, the Law Commission of India recently recommended that as of now, means currently, we don't need Uniform Civil Code because it will unnecessarily gather or unnecessarily uh, create an controversy regarding Uniform Civil Code, because when the news comes of uniform civil code or it is in public discourse, the male, particularly the males from different communities like is Muslims, they call it as an attack on their religious freedom, or the uniform civil code is against Islam, and they many times they call a jihad against this uniform civil code. So according to Law Commission, they recommended that as of now we don't require uniform civil code. Rather, the government should focus on the gender equality reforms in civil laws. Means government can bring reforms in methods like marriage, divorce, alimony, child custody, and inheritance, so that there won't be any negative impact on women, and there will be equality or parity between men and women regarding all these personal laws. This was overall about Uniform Civil Code. Yes, this is Uniform Civil Code symbolically, means it's treat all religions equally, and all civil matters or the legal matters should be equally applicable to all Indians irrespective of their religion. Yes, this is Uniform Civil Code. Now, pros and cons of Uniform Civil Codes means what are the benefits or what can be negative consequences of Uniform Civil Code, or what can be the opposition from society to this Uniform Civil Code. The first one, what are the benefits or the pros of this UCC? First one is it provides equal status to all citizens irrespective of their religion. Further, it promotes gender parity, means the male will be equal to female in cases of Uniform Civil Code or the civilian matters. As of now, the women are not treated equally, particularly among the religions like Islam. Further, it accommodates the aspiration of the young population, because the today's young population is against these traditional practices which are running against the women. The youth population want to end these practices, so we can accommodate their aspirations. Further, it supports the national integrations because it considers all Indians equal. Further, it will bypass the issues of reform of existing personal laws. Means if we pass the Uniform Civil Code, there won't be any need of reforms in the personal laws. These are the overall benefits of Uniform Civil Code. But obviously there are some concerns by communities, and what are that concerns? Further, the first one is practical difficulties due to diversity of India. Means there are multiple traditions of multiple religions as well as religious practices, and the Indian constitutions provide security or the fundamental right of the religion to the minorities as well as the tribal populations, and this Uniform Civil Code may go against the spirit of this fundamental right to religion. Further, the perception of Uniform Civil Code is an encroachment on religious freedom, or for example, the Muslims consider this Uniform Civil Code is an attempt to reduce the Muslim population in India or reduce the religious freedoms of Muslims. Further, the interference of the state in the personal matters. Yes, obviously it is an interference of state, but for the betterment of the society ultimately. Further, it is a sensitive and tough task to implement, because the many societies or the particularly the males from the but many religions will be opposed to this Uniform Civil Code, and the time is not yet suitable for this reform. And this last concern was given by Law Commission. Means Law Commission says as of now we don't require Uniform Civil Code, rather we should focus on gender parity reforms in personal laws. Means we want to provide equal opportunity to the women compared with men. So these were the benefits and concerns regarding the Uniform Civil Code. Now, the challenges faced by secularism in India. Yes, what are the challenges? Means secularism is basic structure of constitution. It is mentioned in the preamble. It is required for unity and integrity of diversity. However, it is not an easy task to maintain secularism in true sense, because you may have heard terms like communalism, pseudo-secularism, right-wing extremism, mob lynching. Yes, these are threats to the secularism. First thing is, first the most important challenge is communalism, because communalism is the biggest threat to secularism. And what is communalism? It is an explosive mix of religion and politics. Yes, communalism is explosive mix of religion and politics. What is communalism? Communalism means it is related with community. It may be caste, it may be tribe, it may be religion, or it may be particular ethnicity or particular race as well. Yes, in Western countries like USA, communalism is related with racism, and in India, it is related with religion. So whenever the terms comes communalism in Indian context, communalism means it is based on religion. Here in Indian context, communalism means explosive mix of religion and politics, means politicization of the religions, or making any issue, it may be socio-economic political issue, and portraying that issue as a religious issue. Then it will turn as a communal issue and it will become a very sensitive. Yes. Next is polarization of the society on religious lines. Means consolidation of the people on religious lines, like consolidation of the Muslims by particular political party, or consolidation of the Hindus by particular political parties. Yes, this is polarization, means the people will not mix to each other, they will not celebrate their festivals together, they won't participate in each other's events. This is polarization of the society, means we are creating barrier within society on religious lines, means we are creating polarizing society so that Hindus will remain isolated from Muslims and Muslim will remain isolated from Hindus. And most of the times why I am taking examples of Hinduism and Muslim, because whenever the terms communalism comes, it is most of the times it is related with Hindu versus Muslims in India. Yes, so the polarization of the society. For example, if the elections are coming in any particular state, the left wing or the right wing parties will try to consolidate the vote bank of Hindus, or the Muslim parties will also try to consolidate the Muslims on religions, like to make all Muslims as a one consolidated vote bank. This is polarization of the society. Further, the communal politics. Yes, communal politics is communalization of the social space by spreading myth and stereotypes against the minorities. Yes, most of the times they are created against minorities because the majority communities are large in number. They are well represented in the police, armed forces, and administration, as well as politics, like the MLAs, MPs, and ministers. So overall, the powers will be with majority, and the minorities won't be represented compared with majority. For example, the Muslims are underrepresented in politics, in MPs, in MLAs, in ministers, or in police or armed forces. They are underrepresented in proportion with their populations. For example, in 2014, in UP, the Lok Sabha elections, the UP consists of almost 18% of the Muslim population. However, the UP don't represent any Muslim MP in 2014 Lok Sabha elections. Means they are underrepresented. Means though they are having 18% population, they don't represent single Muslim MP in 2014. This was because of communalization of politics. Further, there is a spreading of myths and stereotypes against minorities. Means the myths like the Muslims are terrorists, they are always related to terror activities, they support the ISIS, and they are anti-nationals. These are the some kinds of myth, and they are spread among the societies. And there may be cases that some Muslims youth or some Muslim youth may join the terrorist organization or the ISIS, but we cannot blame the complete society or the complete Muslim community. So the single cases are considered and they are made general. Means they say all Muslims are terrorists, or they support Muslims, they support terrorists directly or indirectly. So this is the communal politics. Further, the politicization of any religious group leads to competitive politicization of another group. Means when the particular religion particularly the majority religions start politicization of the issue or the consolidation of the Hindus, then automatically the Christians will start consolidating. At the same time, the Muslims will start consolidating. Means, for example, recently there were Bihar elections. The AIMIM party, yes, AI, All India Majlis Ittihadul Muslimin party, was participating in the Bihar election, and they tried to consolidate Muslims or Muslim voters. Similarly, once they started consolidating the Muslims, at the same time, other right-wing parties started consolidating the Hindus. Means now the people or the voter will vote on the religious lines, not on local issues or regional issues or the developmental issues which affect their day-to-day life. So this is competitive politicization, means behaving or the changing the voter behavior on the religious line. Yes, this is a politicization. Examples: the establishment of the communal organization in the initial decades of 20th century. Means if we see the establishment of all these organizations, first in 1906 the Muslim League was established, in 1950s Hindu Mahasabha established, then in 1925 RSS established, and many other religious and communal organizations were established in first 2-3 decades of 20th century. Means one community started establishing a particular political party or the organization, all other religious faith also start doing the same. Means there is a competition among them. Further, in recent past also, the communalism has proved to be a great threat to the secular fabric of the Indian polity. Means communalism has been a great threat. Examples: consider the Sikh riots in 1984 after the assassination of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. She was assassinated by some her Sikh bodyguards. She was killed, and as aftermath of that event, there was Sikh riots and Sikh people were targeted. Yes, consider this event as example. Few people or 2-3 bodyguards killed the honorable Prime Minister, but the effect was that all other people, Hindus or congressmen, targeted the Sikh minorities. Means those who were innocent, those who were not anywhere in this assassination process, they also got affected and they were also killed. Means we are killing innocent people in the name of religion. The causes may be different. Yes, this is one example. Further, the Babri Masjid demolition. The Babri Masjid was demolished in the state of UP, but it has nationwide impact, and there were riots in states like Maharashtra or the Bombay riots, yes, or the Mumbai riots. It was an impact of Babri Masjid demolition in 1992. Then the Gujarat riot in 2002. These are some examples where, due to the politicization of the issue or the communalization of the particular issue, the innocent people got killed. Yes, without any fault of them. Yes, these are the challenges. Going further, if we see the recent past, the rise of Hindu nationalism in recent years have resulted into mob lynching on mere suspicions of slaughtering of the cows or the consuming of the beef. If you see the news in recent 4-5 years, there has been a rise of Hindu nationalism, particularly after 2014, and some fanatic groups among the Hindus are targeting Muslims by saying they are slaughtering the cows, which is considered mother by Hindus. But think for a while, when the cow and the man comes or the human being comes, ultimately we should provide priority to the human being. Means human being is important than the animal. So rationally speaking, we should not kill any human being, but some fanatic group are targeting the minorities, particularly the Muslims, for or the suspicion that they are smuggling the cows, they are slaughtering the cows, and they are consuming the beef. Yes, these are, you may have heard about this impact or the various incidences taken regarding these cows, and many states have taken or passed the laws regarding the cow protection laws, and many times they used the laws like threat to the nationalism or anti-nationalism or Security of India Act for the people who are involved in this slaughtering of the cows. So up to this extent, this fanatism has arisen in recent past. Going further, forced closure of the slaughterhouses, campaign against Love Jihad, Ghar Wapsi. Yes, you may have heard about these terms, Love Jihad, Ghar Wapsi. These are the terms in public discourse which are simply used for communalization of the social sphere, and they are creating prejudices and stereotypes against the minorities, and they are reinforcing the communal tendencies in the society, because there are masses or there are few people or the many people in the Hinduism or any other community who believe in the WhatsApp messages. They don't try to cross check the events or the information forwarded in WhatsApp message, and there's a very high probability that they may get communalized, and knowingly or unknowingly they participate in the communalism, and ultimately this turns into communal riots. Yes, along with this, the Islamic fundamentalism or the revivalism pushes for establishment of the Islamic State based on Sharia law, that is related with the ISIS. The issues related with ISIS means when the Muslim youth or the Muslim community sees the examples or the events like Love Jihad, Ghar Wapsi, then the attacks on cow slaughtering people, it leads to fundamentalism or the revivalism among Muslims as well. Means the youth will be radicalized. Yes, we are radicalizing the youth, and ultimately or over the period of time, that youth may join anti-social activity or the any terrorist organizations. There have been examples where the Muslim youth from Kerala, from Hyderabad region have joined the ISIS in Iraq and Syria and in Turkey as well, because the youth was brainwashed, the youth was radicalized in the by the events like this, and they joined the terrorist organization or the fundamental organization like ISIS. So these are the threats to the secularism in India. Now, how to make India truly secular country? Means as of now we are not truly secular, and the incidences of communalism are occurring many times and many places. Most of the times there is a political support by particular party or particular group to these communal activities. So how we can make India a truly secular country? First one is strictly implementation of constitutionalism. Means any law, any commission, any mission, any public activity should be inspired from constitutionalism. Means constitution should be the best for everybody, for individual, for group, for government, or for bureaucrats. It should be the only base for activities in the public sphere. Further, the primacy of the fundamental rights means we should focus on protecting fundamental rights rather than promoting traditions. In short, wherever there will be conflict between fundamental right and the traditions by particular religion, we should emphasize on fundamental rights. Take an example, the issue of Sabrimala, where the women's entry was not allowed. Now the Supreme Court has said it is a violation, or it is a violation of fundamental rights of the women. So the women should allowed to enter into Sabrimala temples. Means whenever the issue comes or there is a conflict between fundamental rights and traditions or the any worship strategy or any worship followed by particular religion or the tradition, the fundamental right should have primacy. Means always fundamental right should be upheld. It may be fundamental rights of the women, it may be fundamental rights of the minorities or the tribes. Yes. Further, in pluralistic society like India, the best approach to promote secularism is expand the religious freedom rather than strictly practicing state neutrality. Yes, means state should not neutral, rather they should promote religious freedom, or they should promote religious activities or religious event, means the celebration of the festival of all religions. Yes, and that too by coming together. Yes, when we will expand the religious freedom, they will believe that state or the central government is not against any religions, and they are giving equal treatment, equal protection to the all religion, and at that time the youth will not be radicalized. Yes, but when there is a separation of any religion, they will there will be a reaction from that religion, and the youth of that religion may get radicalized. So rather than strictly practicing neutrality, we should promote the religious freedom or to expand the religious freedom. Further, introduce all religion and their features to the school children. Means the school children should know what are the religions in the India, what is atheism or theism, and what are the major religions of India and why they are different, what are their practices. And they should promote, or the belief of composite culture should promote among the school children. Because as of now, they might not know what are the major religions of the India, and they may tend to believe in the prejudices which are taught by their peer groups or their families or their societies. So the children should know the diversity of the India, particularly the religious diversity. Further, the Uniform Civil Code should be implemented in the upcoming few decades or the few years. Further, strict regulation by the Election Commission of India regarding the communalization of the votes and their polarization. Because most of the times the political parties tries to polarize the society on religious lines so as to consolidate them as a determine the vote base or the fixed vote base, so that irrespective of any development process they will blindly vote them. So in this, election commission can take steps to avoid communalization of voter. Further, inclusive development. Inclusive development is the solution to all these problems. Means if we consider all Indians equal, if we consider them together, and if we provide development process reaches to them, means everybody gets the good education, good health facilities, skills, good job, better standard of living. Once they got all these things, they will not support any communal party or any communal agenda, irrespective of religions. Means if the people, if a person belonging to the minority community and he is well educated, he is having good job, he will not support any communal agenda unless he is a politician. Yes, obviously they tend to communalize society for their own benefit. So inclusive development is a solution to them. Yes, this was all about secularism, and what is opposite to secularism is communalism. And now we are going to see what is communalism. Yes, in communalism we are going to see what is concept of communalism, what is communalism in India in the past, the communalism in the contemporary India, the cases of communalism in current context or the current events, further the consequences of communalism on society or overall nation development process, measures to control and eradicate communalism, and considering the case that secularism as an antidote to communalism, means secularism can beat communalism. Yes, and we are going to cover this one by one. Yes, as we have seen already, this concept of communalism is exclusive mix of religion and politics, means politicization of the religion. For example, go back to the year in 1980s or 1970s, where after the partition of the India into India and Pakistan, the Sikh people in the Punjab started demanding separate state or the separate country for the Sikh people, because they believed that as the Islam or the Muslims got their separate country, we should also get separate countries. Otherwise, we will remain a minority and we will be subjugated by majority religion in India. So we want separate state called Khalistan. And during this process, they communalized the people in Punjab and they targeted killing the non-Punjabi or the non-Sikh people in the Punjab. And it continued for a decade. And at the end, what happened? The Operation Blue Star, where the extremists among the Sikh people entered into the Golden Temple and they used that Golden Temple as their base. And finally, without leaving any option, the Indian army or the government has to take the military actions called Operation Blue Star. Under this operation, they vacated the Golden Temple and they killed the Sikh right-wing extremist, and it ultimately led to the assassination of the Indira Gandhi. Means, see the journey in short. They demanded separate country for Sikh people. Next came the targeting of the non-Sikh or the non-Punjabi people. Then came use of religious places as a base for promoting their agenda. And when the state interfered or state started curbing their anti-national activities or separatist activities, at that time, government used the force and in return, they killed the Indian Prime Minister. This is an impact of communalism. Means they use religion and they politicize the religions. And after the assassination of the Indira Gandhi, what happened? The Sikh riots of 1984, where almost or more than 8,000 Sikh people died, who were innocent and they don't have any role in this communalism or any communal politics. So this is the concept of communalism, and communalism or the communal rights are impact of communalism. Means communalism is ideology and communal rights are direct impact or the implications of communalism. Now, communalism in the past, in the history of India, particularly after the advent of the British, it was an outcome of British policy of divide and rule. Yes, because Britishers want to make India under their rule. They want to rule India for indefinite time. For that, they use policy of divide and rule because they were aware that once all Indians became one, once they are united against us, we will not be able to rule India. So they use this policy and they started dividing India on the lines of religion, caste, particularly. And they promoted this policy particularly after 1857. Because if you see the social reforms or the economic reforms initiated by British are before 1857. Once the 1857 revolt was there, they used reactionary policies. Means the government will try to oppose everybody who is demanding freedom. Means those who are demanding freedom, government will oppose them. And after 1857, government stopped taking any reformatory steps. Rather, they promoted the traditions of Hinduism, tradition of Islam. Means they started appeasement of the right-wing extremism among the all religions. And they used this religious group against the Indian National Congress. The establishment of the Indian National Congress was in 1885, and the role of Congress was important in freedom struggle of India. And they united religion, all leaders of India across the region of India, irrespective of their religion and caste. But the government, the British government, united the communal forces to act against this Indian National Congress or to weaken the Indian National Congress efforts. Yes, means if you want to trace the communalism, it is a modern phenomenon, particularly after 1857, and you can note that before 1857, Indian society was not communal, and communalization started in India in 1857 onwards. Yes. Another example is the partition of the Bengal. The government, under their policy of divide and rule, they put forward the policy of partition of the Bengal by saying that the Bengal province is very large and it is inconvenient for the administration. So we are dividing Bengal province in West Bengal, East Bengal. But ultimately their hidden motto was to separate Muslim population and Hindu population. Means East Bengal was dominated by Muslims and West Bengal was dominated by Hindus, and they want to divide two communities on the line, on this line. So Bengal partition was an example to divide Hindus and Muslims. those who are trying for India's freedom. Further, they promoted communalism to weaken the Indian National Congress because INC was direct threat to the British and their government. Further, they used appeasement policy to the communal groups. They provided various appeasement solutions to them. For example, providing the separate electorate by 1909 policy. Yes, Murle Minto reforms. They provided separate electorate for the Muslims. In 1932, they also provided communal award or communal accord, where they provided separate electorate for Dalits as well. Means they wanted to separate people on the religious lines, on caste lines, to weaken the freedom struggle movement. So this was an appeasement policy. Appeasement means giving some privileges to the particular communal groups. This was appeasement policy. Further, and ultimately, this led to the partition of the India. Means the communalism started about 1857, particularly after the revolt of 1857, and it ended in 1947. Finally, partition of the India. Means it stopped at partition of the India, but communalism continued after the partition as well. Because it was rooted in the Indian mentality. Because nobody can forget the India was partitioned on the religious line. The Muslims got separate state, and Hindus' land was taken away or snatched away by them. So nobody can forget this event, and the Hindus started consolidating, and they started various movements to tackle this communalism or to promote communalism. Further, the causes of the communalism. What are the causes in general? In last 1 century, the British policy, yes, obvious example, the divide and rule policy. Further, the Hindus and Muslim revival movement, means the organization from both Hinduism and Islam started reviving or reforming their own religion on traditional lines. Yes, Hindus and Muslims both started this movement. Further, a communal and distorted history of India, means they distorted the history and they stated that the ancient India was dominated by Hindus, the medieval India was dominated by Muslims, and the modern India is dominated by Christians. So they strictly divided Indian history into 3 periods. Ancient, dominated by Hindus; medieval India, dominated by Muslims; and modern India, dominated by Christians. And it was taught in the schools and colleges. So it promoted communalism in the students as well as overall masses. Further, the separatism and isolation among the Muslims, means still as of now, the Muslims don't get mixed with other religious people like Buddhist, Jainism or Christianity. Means the people belonging to Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, they mix up easily with Hindus or any other religion, but Muslims try to remain isolated or try to remain separated. Yes, this is also one of the reason. Further, the rise of communal and fundamental parties. Yes, the rise of communal parties, and particularly the religious parties, who started in various parts of the India, and they promoted communalism in Indian masses. Further, the misuse of the misguided and brainwashed youth, means there are few individual or the few gurus of particular religion, they are misguiding the youth and brainwashing them to participate in the anti-national activities. Yes, so these are the few causes of communalism. Now the causes of communal riot. The causes are almost similar. Communalism is an ideology and communal rights are outcome of this ideology. Yes. What are the causes behind communal rights? Because India is facing challenges of communal rights at various places at various times, particularly before the elections. Yes, these communal rights occur. What are the reasons behind it? The first one is divisive politics by political parties. Yes, especially for the vote bank consolidation. Yes. Further, the economic causes. Example, if you remember the Mopla rebellion in 1921, Actually, the cause was economic, where the Moplas rebellion occurred in the Malabar region of Kerala, where most of the tenants were Muslims and most of the landlords were Hindus. Actually, this issue initially was among the Zamindar versus tenants, or the landlord versus tenants. That was an issue, and the tenants were fighting against the higher rent by them, the exploitation by the landlords. These were the economic causes behind that rebellion. However, the British government used force to suppress Moplas, or the Mopla Muslims in Malabar region, and at the same time, Moplas recognized that few of the Hindus are supporting the British forces, and they are also they are also participating along with the British forces to crush us, or they are killing us. So, in return, this issue of Mobla rebellion turned into Hindu versus Muslim. Initially, it was Zamindar versus tenants. This issue was turned into Hindu versus Muslims, and there were mass killing of Hindus as well as Muslims during this Mopla rebellion and Mopla riots. So, economic cause was considered as a communal cause. So, this can also be a cause of communal riots. Further, the history of communal riots in many parts of India, there is a history of communal riots start from the Indian independence or before that also. Further, the appeasement by political parties. Yes, most few of the political parties considers secularism as a anti-national, anti-Hinduism, or privilege, providing privilege to the Muslims. They consider secularism is providing appeasement to the Muslims or minority community, and talking against the Hindus or anti-Hinduism is equivalent to secularism. So there is appeasement of the minority community by political parties. Obviously, it will have a reaction from the majority party, and it will lead to communalism. Further, isolation and economic backwardness of the Muslim community. If we see the statistics, the status of education, the status of good jobs, or presentation in the bureaucracy or in the police force, they are underrepresented. They are involved in the petty job, that is low paying job. So they are relatively isolated as well as economically backward, and they are having more poverty rate. Yes, they are having very high poverty rate among the Muslim community. It also leads to communalizing them, because many of them, due to illiteracy, believes that we are poor because because we are Muslims. Yes, most of the times they are not ready to recognize the actual reasons. They consider it is mainly due to our religion. Further, the administrative failure to early control. Most of the times there are political forces behind these communal riots, and most of the times the paramilitary forces or the police force don't reach at a time which is required to control the mob, and there is administrative failure, and which ultimately lead to the human right violations. And once the communal right is there, it is very difficult to control that, and it will have implication in near future as well. Next point is psychological factors like phobia. Among the many Indians, there is a Islamophobia, means they believe the Muslims are supporter of the terrorist, and there is psychological fear among them that if we are not consolidated together, we don't come, or we don't, we if we not united together over the period of time, they will rule us. So this is the psychological fear or the psychological factor behind this communalism, and most of the times this is because of the communal agenda or the propaganda spread by political parties as well. The role of social media and media is also important, because social media takes important role in the spread of fake news. If you see the incidences of the mob lynching in the India, the fake news or the spread of fake news by WhatsApp was a major reason behind the mob lynching, because they spread the news that there is some gang who is a child lifting gang is there, and they are kidnapping our child. So the local people on doubt only killed many people who are beggars. Yes, This is the nature or the role of social media. Yes, and most of the times the targeted people are belonging to the minorities. So it leads to communal rights as well. Further, the communalism in contemporary India means what is happening now. There are some concepts which are known in the public discourse, like the Hindu Rashtra concept, then systematic targeting of the particular community through concepts like Tukde Tukde Gang, then Love Jihad, then Ghar Wapsi movement. These are the terms used for systematic targeting the particular community or creating fears among the Hindus. So these are coming trend. Further, the polarization is the major trend. Polarization of the Hindus or the Muslims for vote bank consolidation because of FPTP process, means in elections we use first past the poll system, where those who are getting majority vote or those who get the highest vote, he or she will be declared as the winner. So due to this system, we are polarizing the voters. Further, the incidences of the mob lynching in the recent years and the communal riots, particularly in the states like UP and Bihar. Yes, these are some examples of communalism or the communal riots in the contemporary India, and they are threat to the secularism in the India, or they are threat to the fundamental rights of people of India, particularly belonging to the minority communities. Yes. Now the consequences of the communalism means what are the impact, particularly the negative impacts of communalism. The first one is the violation of the human rights, because most of the times due to this communal ideology or the communal rights, the innocent people are getting killed and there is a violation of the human rights. Further, it creates a threat to the law and order, it threat to the communal harmony and the peace, and it creates the atmosphere of the suspicion. Means once the communal right is there, it may have reaction after few times, few months, few years. It may have reactions. So it creates a atmosphere of the suspicion, and due to all these factors, there are economic losses, because during riots, the many places like the shops are being burned. Most of the times, the people who are involved in industries or in shops, they are burned and they are got killed, and it disrupt the economic process, it disrupt the market, it disrupt the businesses. So these are the overall consequences of the communalism. Yes. Now, how to control or eradicate communalism? How to eradicate? First one is bringing reforms in the criminal justice system and speedy trials and adequate compensation to the victim, which may act as a deterrent. In short, once or whenever there is a communal riot, there should be a strict implementation of law, and the violators or those who are involved in the riot should be identified and should get strict punishment. Then only it will be act as a deterrent for the future violator or those who were or those who will be involving in this communal riot. As of now, what happens? Most of the times, the rioters are not involved or they are not identified, and most of them they skip away from the judicial system and they move freely. This leads to practice that they believe that nobody can do anything to us. Means if we get a support from particular political party, law cannot do anything to us. So we can do anything. So there is a need of criminal justice system. Further, increase in the representation of the minority communities and weaker sections in all wings of law enforcement, training of forces in human rights. Why this is important? As of now, the communities like Muslims, they are underrepresented in administration, in bureaucracy, in police and paramilitary forces, and they believe that, or they tend to believe that police are against Muslims, or police are anti-Muslims, and it was found in the Mumbai riots, and there is a trust deficit between minority community and the police, because they perceive police as a Hindu forces and they are suppressing us. So once they are represented adequately, then there can be a trust, the trust deficit can be bridged, or there can be a trust among the police forces and the minority community. So their adequate representation is very necessary. Further, the codified guidelines for the administrations, particularly when there are communal riots or when there is a situation which may lead to the communal riots, there should be codified guidelines for administration, and administration should be free and autonomous to take required steps to take actions against the people who are indulged in such activities. But as of now, what happens is the decisions are taken by politicians or the ministers, and they give direction to the police forces, and due to this political vested interest, the communal rights become worse, and there is a violation of the human rights and economical losses. So there should be independent body or independent guidelines to tackle such incidences. Further, the value emphasis on value-oriented education for the all, where peaceful coexistence, non-violence, compassion, fraternity, humanism, secularism, rationalism, such values should be promoted among the youth, so that they will not support the communal agenda or the communal ideology, and they will be secular and they consider all Indians as their brothers or sisters. Such kinds of measures can help to control the communalism. So, due to the politicization of the issue, communalism occurs, and it will take a long time, because the politics is involved in this communalism, and almost all political parties want to take a benefit out of it, and they are not concerned about the violation of the human rights. So, the administration, the judiciary, the constitutional bodies like election commission should take a great responsibility in controlling and eradicating this communalism. Further, the proactive steps like early warning indicators. This is a case study from the Malaysia, where they use early warning indicators to prevent racial clashes in Malaysia, where they are having intelligence with them, and they take adequate steps to control the rioter or the control the people who may involve in this communal riots. This can be done only when the administration is strong enough or they are autonomous and independent of the politicians. So similar, or the project on the similar lines can also be implemented in India as well. Further, the proactive approach by National Foundation for Communal Harmony, which promotes the communal harmony in India, but as of now, they just meet as a meeting for a sake, and they don't do major activities for communal harmony. So proactive approach from them is also required. Further, the bills like communal violence, prevention, control, rehabilitation of the victims should be passed by Parliament, so that there will be control on the communal riots, and those who were involved in this communal riot will be held responsible. It may be the individual, it may be political party, it may be some bureaucrats or some politicians. Everybody should be held responsible for their anti-social activities. For such, there is a need of a legislative support or the statutory support like this act. But as of now, this bill is not passed, and this is a bill itself. This has not converted into the act. So such measures can act as a, or it can be used for control and eradication of communalism. Now, the secularism as an antidote to the communalism means, is it possible to use secularism to curb the communalism, and particularly in the Indian situation? As of now, if you consider the secularism in India, it is on paper only, because still all Indians are not literated. There are many illiterate people who believe in the communal agenda, who believe in WhatsApp forwarded message, and they are not rational enough to think of the propaganda spread by any anti-social elements. So secularism can do, or it can target the communalism, but there are many things that needs to be done. If you want to curb the communalism, first thing is adequate representation to the all sections, particularly the minorities in administration, police and paramilitary or military. Further, the good human development indicators for all means there should be a poverty eradication programs, particularly for the poor among the minorities. Further, the good health and education to all, good jobs, skill to them, then economic support to them. Further, the social security net for all Indians, irrespective of their religion. And lastly, the social empowerment of the weaker sections, particularly the social empowerment of the women. All this factor will lead to empowerment of the individual. Once the individual is targeted by government and they are provided good education, good job and good social security, at that time individual will not support any communal agenda or any communal right, and the secularism will come automatically. For this, development is a antidote, means development or the rather inclusive development can act as a solution for controlling communalism. Yes, this was about the communalism.